Welcome back to another episode of Two Beans and a Screen. I'm terrible at intros, but I'm Qomi,
And I'm CB.
and we are the podcast that talks about K-dramas, basically. We watch them and talk about them. And we are watching Reborn Rich. We are now currently on episode 4, and yeah, are you ready for our recap, CB?
Absolutely. I'm excited about this one. This is a pretty packed episode. So, before we do that, if anybody wants it, we have down in the description some times in case you want to jump to any part of the episode. Let's dive right in. So, on this episode, Jin Do-Joon and Mr. O are discussing their investment into Hando Steel, a $500 million investment, USD, to outbid Sun-Young. So we cut to the racetrack where Chairman Jin Yun-chol is testing the new Sun-Young car in racing conditions. And you could say there's a lot of family tension with his daughter, telling him that Sun-Young Motors is a poor investment because instead he should be endorsing her husband as a politician with that money. And, well, he doesn't really see her as the equal of her brothers. So tensions are high. We meet the head of the Taeyong Group, the rival and other largest company in South Korea, where there is a fair bit of banter about the purchase of Hando Steel and the value of the two companies. Tensions could not be higher, especially after the Sun-Young company's car exploded, embarrassing him and leading him to walk out before the presentation for Sun-Young's new car, the Athene. The brothers want to do the presentation without the chairman, but he can't be found. So Jin Do-Joon, knowing where he is, heads there, having read it in his autobiography. He goes to where he is and convinces him to go back and take part in the opening event. At the end of the event, we see 2-1 hint to Jin Do-Joon that he knows about his connections to Power Shares, the foreign investment company that is bidding against Sun-Young. For Hando Steel. And we see that he also has photos of Jin Do-Joon leaving a building right before Mr. O, the CEO of Power Shares. So, though the chairman first doubted 2-1 when he told him of his involvement with Power Shares, he now believes it because he made the connection between his trip to New York and decides to confront him. He picks him up from school personally and gives him a thinly veiled threat that he never forgives anyone that crosses him, even his own kin. We cut to a hotel where Seo Min-Young delivers some flowers to a room where she finds Jin Do-Joon after having been embarrassed earlier for receiving a scholarship for her father's position as a prosecutor. She tells him that she turned it down because, unlike him in his fancy hotel room, she works for her money. Though, as it turns out, the flowers weren't for Jin Do-Joon or a date of his. He, too, was actually working, in this case, with the investors of Power Shares. So she's further embarrassed and storms out. After meeting about their investment plan, increasing their bid even higher for Hando Steel, Mr. O is invited to meet with the chairman of Sun-Young. He tells him that Jin Do-Joon hasn't actually betrayed him, though he understands why he thinks that, because as it happens, he's already been betrayed by his family. When asked what that means, he reveals that 2-1 is the person actually backing the Taeyong Group. Surprisingly, the chairman isn't angry about it because he recognizes that it's just business. In the end, though, the eldest son wins the bidding war for Sun-Young, though at a great cost of $750 million. We finish with Jin Do-Joon and Mr. O revealing that everything went according to plan. Because Jin Do-Joon never intended to win the bidding war, he just wanted to split the family, drive up the price, and instead invested his $24 million in a small company known as Amazon. So he increased his investment by Amazon. He increased his investment by 900% while the rest of the country is heading into a recession, as we see at the end. And we hear Jin Do-Joon's voice say, "Your crisis, my opportunity." And that's the recap.
Yeah. Amazing storytelling, dude.
No. Amazing episode, as we are about to go over, but a lot to cover. So I'm glad that we do these little recaps to remind me of everything that happened.
Yeah, you're like, that was a good episode. Yeah, CB, you want to do the recap? wait, what happened again?
Yeah, actually, like so much happens in any one episode. At over an hour long, I always forget what happened pretty much immediately. I remember the emotions that were there, but when we were actually talking through everything that happened, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Surprisingly, I felt like this episode didn't have as much information, but there are so many notable things that happened in these longer scenes that it ended up being, yeah, like, oh yeah, that happened, and this happened, and that happened.
Yeah, I feel like there were not as many different locations and scenes and that sort of stuff, but as you say, like there was a lot of dialogue packed into a scene. So I came away from this episode with a bunch of quotes. That's kind of what I came up. There's so many good tidbits of dialogue, and I was like, yes, okay, there's a lot to dig into emotionally in this episode. So let's start our impressions. Right off the bat, I want to talk about the line, "There are 5 of me, but only 1 of you."
That was such a great line.
Okay, so do you remember the context behind what that line was?
Yeah, so it was after the car exploded on the racetrack. Not just some random car. On the racetrack, Soo-Young's car started to malfunction, exploded, smoke everywhere, and you see the anger in the chairman. And the chairman of Taeyong Group so obnoxiously comes up to him and says, you know what your problem is? Or like, you know what, like why I'm successful? It's because I have 5 of me, showing his sons. And then he says, but looks like there's only 1 of you.
Oh, it's so good. Oh.
Right? And it's so true. Because he doesn't seem like he can trust anyone in his own family. He can't trust his successors or anything. You can see how angry and stressed he is about this. That he can't find a successor he's happy with. But for Taeyong Group's chairman, he is so confident in his family that maybe that's why he is so successful. It's because he's not alone.
I feel like he had a comeback for everything up until that point. He was like, well, you have a crazy high amount of liquidity. Like you could go under at any time. We have more available assets. Like, he was on top of it. He was feeling confident. This was not about the car. This was because he knew it was true.
Yeah. He even said, like my great grandson or whatever, not his great grandson, my like awesome grandson basically, like my grandson. What do you say? It's not over till it's over, right?
Yes, yeah.
My grandson
he split that up. It's not over till it's over. He said that with such confidence and so proud.
Yeah, and then it exploded.
And then it exploded. Yeah. Small details. I feel like this was such an important moment because it's that 3-episode build of seeing how important the chairman was to this company and seeing how the company fell into infighting in the first episode with all of these different people vying for the position of chairman, how it fell to doing illegal acts and all this different stuff. Episode 2, we see that that's how Jin Do-Joon earns his trust, is basically by showing, even at 11 years old, I am a better successor than these men in their 40s. And this is kind of the culmination of that feeling because he's the youngest grandson of 4 families, a family that has been disowned by him. And so I basically feel in that scene that he's basically saying, I realize this is true. I'm in trouble and I need to start putting my successors to the test immediately. I don't know. It's such an important scene and such an important line that I feel like we have to start with it because it kind of sets up a lot of conflict for this episode. One of the other things that this scene also sets up is the conflict with the daughter. So she is 3-1. Is that right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so 3-1. She is somebody who seems fairly capable. She is somebody who is always vying for her husband as a political candidate. And for the first time, we really see her blow up at her father instead of sucking up, essentially. So he tells her in this episode, he straight up tells her, you should be feeling lucky that you are my one and only daughter, when he clearly treats the sons differently, as if they could take over the business one day. So I guess my question to you is, after seeing the episode, do you feel like this was something where he is just misogynistic, or does he have another reason for not allowing her to take power, or at least give power to her husband?
I think in the beginning, you can totally accept it as he's just being misogynistic. It's the 1990s, like,
Yeah.
even at that time, like, you're just a girl type of thing. Yeah, I mean, in the subtitles, they also mention that the word for only daughter is Komyong, and it is also it also means garnish. So, like a little garnish on the plate type of thing. Like, so the word for only daughter is also a little, like, demeaning as well.
More than a little.
Yeah, it's pretty demeaning. Like, you're just, like, garnished. You're just there for show. Like, you just sit there and
Right.
look pretty type of thing. That's like, kind of what's expected in, like, rich families, I assume. You're the only daughter. Just just sit and be pretty type of thing. But she even says, like, I'm gonna show him, like, I'm the entree, I'm the main dish. Like, my brothers are the main dish. Nah, he's wrong. Like, I am type of thing, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know. I was kind of rooting for her a little bit. I was like, yeah, you go, girl. Like, you tell him you're the main dish.
Yeah, I wanted to see what she was going to do, because I didn't want to write her off. I kind of put her originally in the same category as her brothers. I'm like, yeah, none of you do live up to kind of what he obviously he has an exceptional mind for business. There's no denying that he has managed to do great things. But at that moment, I was like, yeah, I want to see what you would do. Are you going to shift the tides in this bidding war? What is going to happen? And, well, she does end up doing something, but I don't know if it's going to shift things in a major way. But she definitely made a statement.
I mean, since, like, everyone here should have basically watched the episode, and, like, you guys know
Yeah.
that we already watched it all. Like, we see that she liquidates some of her funds because she is part of the department store of Sun-Young. Yeah.
Yes, I
Sun-Young
believe
department
so.
Store. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a CEO of the department store, and they notice, like, there's some liquidation happening, even though, like, their funds have been stellar or something. They thought it was suspicious that she was liquidating things, so they're looking into it. I totally thought that she was going to be the traitor.
Yeah, the
I
one backing Taeyong Group, right?
Yes, I totally thought she was going to be it because she gives us such evil energy. She's like a witch almost. But I was like rooting for
she
this
does.
witch.
She
Yeah,
does.
I was rooting for her. But yeah, as soon as it was kind of like hinted in a way, like, oh, like she's liquidating her funds for what? I was like, okay, maybe she's
Especially because it's the eldest son who finds out, right? Like, it's reported to him, and he's the one who is bidding for Sun-Young. And so you're like, oh, if he's finding out, they're telling him because she could be the one going to Taeyong Group. So it would make sense. It was a clever misdirect by the show, for sure.
Yeah, that kind of threw me off. I was like, yo, that is good job. But yeah, like she does help turn things around when she helps the eldest brother, acquire Hando Steel. Like with
Right.
her 50 million, like he was able to purchase the company, and maybe that is her way to show her father that she is equally capable. Like she was also investing her money into it.
Yeah. I wasn't exactly sure what she was trying to achieve there, other than she was the one pushing it over the boundaries. I feel like it's her basically saying to the eldest son that he owes her big time now.
Yeah.
And I mean, she did get something out of it. Obviously, her husband is going to get the political endorsement from him, but he's not even in power yet. So I guess she's saying, I'm backing you in this horse race. Go get the company from father, and you will owe us in the future.
And
But I don't know if it'll shift the tide. I don't know.
yeah, like I don't know how much value her father's gonna see in her investing. I feel like it's not going to be much. It's like a measly 50 million. Like
Yeah.
you're probably more foolish to help invest in that than to versus like you not doing anything at all type of thing. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. She was like, I'm going to show him that I'm the entree. And it's like, you literally put the finishing touch on a plate that was
yeah,
already being served.
she was
And yes,
literally the garnish.
it did push it over the finish line. Maybe that's the thing, is like it wouldn't have happened otherwise. And so if he starts getting all of the praise, she can kind of step in. I don't know, but it was not an entree move. I was hoping for so much more.
I know, right? When it was the final reveal and she walks in like, yo, take my 50 mil. I was like, that's it?
That's
like,
it.
Like, I mean, it does help, but like, yeah, you're like in cooking competitions, you need to make the dish look pretty.
Yeah.
Literally the garnish.
The garnish. That's exactly it. And I have to say, out of all of the potential stories with the family members, I find not just hers, but her and her husband's the least interesting. I don't care about the political side of things
Same.
in this case because
Yeah.
it's so far away from the business world that they live in.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already seen in the future that he still continues to be this kind of like groveling husband. She tells him whatever to do. She holds all the power. So it doesn't make me care about their plight in the family. Whereas 1-1, because he does become the chair in the future, interesting. 2-1, he's now the betrayer. He is the traitor of the family. Instantly interesting. 4-1, the father of Jin Do-Joon. There's interest there. As a comment that was given to us in our first episode kind of pointed out, that will likely become the the fictional version of CJ Entertainment. Like, there's a lot of interest there. But 3-1, I don't know. That I was really hoping she would do something interesting to draw me in, and that just wasn't it.
Yeah, I don't know. I also think it's kind of sad seeing him so whipped, holding the umbrella, holding her coat, holding her purse. It's like, I know that's like a classic like husband-wife dynamic.
Very
kind of thing,
much, yeah.
but
yeah.
it's like, man, you're so wimpy. I'm
Right?
rooting for you too, man. I hope you succeed in something in life, man. I don't know. It's kind of sad.
I know what you mean.
But yeah, totally with you on the politics stuff. Maybe it's just also we're not super into politics ourselves. So that
Yeah,
it's like,
that could be it.
yeah, we're not super interested in it. But like, they also reveal that turns out the chairman doesn't want to endorse the son-in-law is because of some politics that happened way back when like when it was revealed, like when he basically ran away, went to his little area where he like decompresses and unwinds and everything. Of course, Jin Do-Joon knows his entire history and everything about him.
His superpower is his autobiography.
Yeah, basically, like, I'm the only one in the entire world who knows where he is right now in this year or whatever. Like, okay. Anyways, yeah, it's revealed in that when Soon-Young first started, the grandfather, he rented out 2 trucks to deliver rice. So they at first they were just like a transportation company, and he later on built and grew from that, and then we got into like the heavy machinery scene, and later on that was all stripped away from him because of the military regime, and that is why he doesn't want to endorse the son-in-law and his run for office, whatever. He doesn't want to endorse him because he doesn't want to hold politics too closely to the business and to the family. It's because he got burned by it when he first started the company.
He's such a businessman that anything that's going to interfere with his business practices immediately is cast aside. It's the whole reason that he invested in semiconductors. He ran into labor issues. He saw an opportunity to no longer rely on human labor. He took it. He's investing heavily to go with artificial intelligence and, well, at that point, maybe not AI, but you know what I mean? Like he's going down that route of, okay, we can automate a lot of these processes. So next time that we have a labor shortage, I'm covered. I can start to build factories that no longer need humans. In this case, it's a political thing. He doesn't want to get involved with politics, as you said, because that could affect his business. He can kind of step aside, and as long as it's not interfering with him, he doesn't have to get involved. He will back politics, but he's going to do it for financial reasons and not because he believes in a particular person or cause.
So that just makes you question then. Like, do you think he shut down his daughter and then the son-in-law because he's misogynistic, or because he had this reasoning deep down all along has just been revealed later on in the episode?
Yeah, I don't have a strong answer one way or another. I kind of fall on both sides. I think that he is old school mentality. I think he is a little bit misogynistic, right? Like the way he talks to his daughter is not the same way that he talks to his sons. And I'm sure that was the case well before she got married to a politician. With that being said, I think that as a business owner, his concerns are valid and he doesn't have to get involved with politics. He can still be involved with his son-in-law. And, he actually speaks to the son-in-law fairly frankly and, treats him decently as he does. Yeah. But I do get both sides of it. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. Same. Totally.
Yeah.
He seems so old school. Yeah. Doesn't flat out hate women, but, bias.
Yeah. I mean, his wife to him, it often seems like a second thought. She is there to kind of take care of the household and that sort of stuff. And he will hear her opinions on certain things, but it's very clear his word is law in the household. So pretty old school. But
typical old man.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to always brush that stuff away, but then we do see moments where he is very caring and these sorts of things that make him such an interesting character. Another scene that I want to talk about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like he was so endearing when he was like smiling and waving at the event. Like, he was like so happy. I'm like, yo, like,
right?
It's so complete opposite from his like poker face. It's so
totally
looking. Yeah.
Totally. We get those moments of almost childlike wonder with him in this episode. And again, I think he does care about his family, but it's almost like he can't remove himself from the business. Like that's his true love. His true love is Soon-Young, the business, not the family name.
Yes.
And I feel like he was the one who probably instituted the employees not being allowed to call them by their name and going by like 1-1, 2-1, 3-1. I feel like he was that person to almost allow him to separate family from business. Because as he said in this episode, or was it this episode? No. Yeah, it was this episode when he picked Jin Do-Joon up from
Dude, you're
school.
butchering it more and more.
I'm so sorry. It does not roll off my tongue. I'm going to work on it. I promise for future episodes I will fix this. So when he picked him up from school and he gave him that threat, basically, without saying that I know you're involved with power shares, he was like, I don't care if you are my own flesh and blood. If you go against me, I will never forgive you. And it's like that bone tingling, like, oh no, what have I done feeling that you can see he's having in that moment. But also, he knows he didn't betray him. He knows that he actually wasn't investing in that. But it is so interesting because he can't separate those two worlds. He just can't. If you're not helping his business, you are a hindrance to his business and you have no business taking part. The youngest son walked away from the business and was like, we can still be family. He's like, you're not my son anymore.
Yeah. He's so like cutthroat, dude.
He is. But what I was going to say is there's another scene that kind of hints at this, and it has my one of the most surprising moments of the episode in a very subtle way. So with the chairman, he finds out later in the episode that 2-1 has betrayed him, and that's a moment that we will talk about more in depth. When he finds out, what were you expecting his reaction to be?
Honestly, maybe a little more shocked, because like I was thinking, yo, if my kid betrayed the business that I put like blood, sweat, tears, everything into, and you're betraying me, like you have a death wish, like I will disown you immediately, because yo, he full on said, if you go against me, I will never forgive you, type of thing.
Right.
So, but he kind of accepted that his son betrayed him and said it's just business, basically. He said, let me take a peek at my notes.
Yeah.
Like basically, like as a businessman, if you put your parents and siblings before profits, you will not make any money. So he said that it's kind of like he gets it. He understands why 2-1 did what he did. But I thought he would be more enraged, especially because of the threat he gave Jin Do-Joon in the car. So it kind of felt like he didn't follow up with that in a way.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where you go, okay, what's really going through his head? He just found out his son invested not just in another company. It's not like it was Power Shares, right? It was his rival company. The one that he hates more than any other. The one that we saw at the beginning of the episode, he got so enraged with. He does not like this competitor. And I almost got the sense that a little part of him respects the move because finally he's showing that he cares about the business and he's willing to take a risk. On the other hand, there's a part of him that, yes, I also expected to just like blow up because, again, he disowned his fourth son because he didn't take part in the business. So you would think that if you're actively going against the business, that he would fly off the handle or do something to strike you down.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about the consequences in a bit, but the moment that really got me was, as you know, his right-hand man was asking him, he's like, I even thought you would be more upset. And he explains to him, you know, no, you can't expect to take care of your parents if you're dealing with a business. When he was saying this, to me at least, he was explaining it, and at the beginning he believes it, and by the end it almost seemed like he was sad as he was talking about his son. Like the realization was that he was losing one of his children and he was going to have to be the one to end that relationship.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on the performance. It was a really powerful performance. You can see the pain he had, especially because his back was turned towards the right-hand man. It's almost as if he turned away on purpose so he couldn't see the pain. Or, just the dramatic looking away shot.
Also that. Yeah. Look out the window painfully.
Yeah. But I don't know, because he cut out the fourth son so quickly, or we can assume he did. But I just have trouble accepting that he accepts his son's ultimate betrayal. It was his rival, the top 2 companies in South Korea, and you go back him up? I don't know. I can see, maybe there's a small play in favoritism.
I think that there's probably a big part of it. I think he probably never got along with his fourth son because he wasn't interested in business.
Yeah, at all. And his 2 eldest sons, right, are nearing 50 at this point. Have been with him all this time. So there has to be emotions in play too. He can't just be so cold and be like, okay, my son betrayed me, I'll cut him off now. I can kind of see a little bit that he is hurt. But yeah, I just thought that entire scene would have gone down a little bit differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we were expecting one thing and they give us something else, and I'm actually really happy that we did get something else, because now I want to know what happens next. This, to me, was a way more interesting way to play it out for a couple of reasons. One, it felt like this entire episode he was testing people. Yes. He realized after that conversation he needs to start testing his sons. So 1-1 is given a task. He has to secure Hando Steel. The second son, not given a test necessarily yet, but this was a test in and of itself. And on one hand, he passed because he made a bold move. On the other hand, he betrayed the family, and that's a no-go. We see it the same thing with Jin Do-Joon, where he was sure at one point that because he had gone to New York and made an investment that it was into Hando Steel with Power Shares. When it turns out that it wasn't him, you can almost see a breath of relief before he realizes that, oh my God, no, it was somebody else in the family. Because Mr. O doesn't lay it out for him. It's not like he just immediately was like, actually, your other son. No, he put it behind a wall and let him get to that realization himself. And then he has to ask, okay, what do you mean?
Sorry, I sneezed.
What do you think will happen to 2-1? Because through the end of the episode, we see him after he has betrayed his brother. After he has betrayed his father, he shows up at the house for a dinner with both of them. And his eldest brother tells him, we know what you did. Oh, and by we, I also mean Dad.
Yeah.
And you can see the fear in his face.
He was very scared when he's like, oh, like, crap, my older brother knows. And the older brother's like, oh, you look like that. When, like, you're so scared when you know that I know. But Dad also knows. Yeah, type of thing.
It's like a different level of fear, right? Like, you already know that you messed up and you didn't secure the win. And on top of that, now they know. Or at least your brother knows, and you're like, well, shoot, this is going to be awkward forever, and he's going to hate me and all this. And it's like, you see the moment that he finds out that his dad knows, and it's just like, he does not want to go on that side of that house. He wants to leave the country at that moment.
Yeah. I actually don't think things are going to go too terribly for him.
Interesting.
Because, well, it's kind of based off of what the chairman said, right? Like, it's just business, basically.
Yep.
And he kind of accepted that like there's going to need to be some of this. I don't know. It's like he accepted the fact that in this sort of family of business, there's always going to be people who's fighting for power, and it's kind of natural that like the younger sibling will fight the older sibling to take them down. Maybe he sees this as like a power move, that like he also has what it takes to be a successor.
It's interesting because on one hand, I totally see what you mean. And looking into the future, if the future does play out exactly as it did in the past, we know that he's still with the company and he actually may have a shot at being the new chairman. On the other hand, there has to be repercussions. There absolutely has to be in my brain, because even if he's not getting kicked out of the family, there's going to be something. He's either going to be given a task that is near impossible. There has to be something that earns him a place in the family, because the father believes so strongly in the Sun-Young name. We see it with the eldest grandson. It's two, right? He is the one who goes and corrects Sun-Young, the lapel, the pin.
Yeah.
Like, he clearly believes in it, and he often speaks about his grandfather as the person who taught him to respect the name so much. Mm-hmm. So to me, eventually there will have to be repercussions. He may not see it now, and I feel like the grandfather is letting that weigh on him so that when it happens, it will be felt that much more. Because it would be easy to kick him out of the family. He has to, like, as we even saw, when he cares about somebody, that's when he mentors them. That's when he will kind of come down on them hard, and maybe that's what this is.
Yeah, but you mentioned that you see history's playing out like it has been, or like history has been going along as is, as it was as before. Yeah. But at this point, is it still that way? Because Power Shares would have never invested into Hando Steel. It's a foreign company. It would have never got into this little bidding war without the involvement of Jin Do-Joon. And I feel like at this point, history should warp a little bit, because they wouldn't never have to spend 750 million instead of maybe 300 to 500. And now there's this foreign company involved. Well, at the end of the episode, they're not really involved anymore. But like things got heated. Like, second brother betrays the first brother. They have to spend a lot more money. Sister gets involved in the bidding as well, stuff like that. Like, do you still believe that history is still going as planned?
I do and I don't. It's actually a very interesting point that I hadn't thought about. I do, on one hand, because I think we have a bit of an unreliable narrator. So Jin Do-Joon is the only one amongst all of us who actually knows what's happening, because he said, I knew my grandfather wasn't on that plane, so history should have changed, or history has changed. But he just didn't write in his autobiography that he was supposed to be on the plane, and then he wasn't. In this case, we don't know. Maybe he already actually knew that there was this whole conflict that went from a bid that should have been 300 million that ended up being 750 million because his son wasn't able to get the deal done properly. He may have actually seen that power shares was mentioned in the autobiography, and we just don't know that as the audience. So that's where I think there might be a little bit of an unreliable narrator. On the idea that we are now changing the history, it all depends on the type of time travel that we're having right here, right? So again, he may have actually invested in Amazon, and then in the future, he's going to do something with that money that affects Amazon, you're right. So he has invested in this company, and we don't know what he's going to do with that money, and that may play out in a way that affects things that make them end up as they were in the future, or everything will change, and we just haven't seen the consequences of those actions yet. Because you're absolutely right. Like, things should change. He has directly affected things. Mm-hmm. And I think he may have even realized what had happened at one point. When he was convincing the chairman to come back to the reveal of the Athene car, he gave him the line about Soon-Young Motors being the engine of Soon-Young as a whole.
Yeah.
And you see him when he says that, he's just like going off the cuff, right? He's just talking, almost like he read it from the autobiography. But when his grandfather hears it, it's like he's hearing it for the first time, and it was never a thought that he had. And then he asks him, can I use that whenever I talk about this from this point forward? And I think he has that realization that, oh my God, I just gave him what he's going to say in his autobiography in the future. It's that thing of, I'm not sure if he's now basically creating the future that he meant to avoid or something like that. We don't know right now. He got isekai'd. We don't know what will happen.
Dude, time travel is always so confusing. Like,
I love it so much.
Yo, but there's so many plot holes to it too. Like, you have to get the world right, otherwise people will pick at it. Kind of like this.
There are a few rules. It depends on what type of time travel you're doing, whether you're doing like multiple timelines, whether you're doing a looping time. Like, there's so many. There's things that you have to follow, and you have to be very precise about. And in this kind of story, I'm like trying not to think too much about it, but there have been inconsistencies, especially this episode. There were a few things that I was like, well, that was an interesting choice, or how did that happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and what you said earlier about our narrator being unreliable, I feel like that's such a major theme in K-dramas in general, because that's what they use a lot. That's what they did throughout this entire episode too. Left out information only to be revealed later on. It is an unreliable narrator. And yeah, I just didn't think about that part. Also kind of being in the timeline, maybe shifting, changing rules. I don't know. Like, I thought about that like throughout the episode where like, of course this happened because this happened, but it was only revealed later on. Let's show blah, blah, blah. Like, that's always typical. It always happens like that in K-dramas. But
yeah, you have to do a little bit of that to kind of trick the audience to get the big reveal at the end. Because if we had just known all the way, it would have been like, oh, of course it's gonna.
No, for sure. Classic K-drama like theme as well. Like, they always do that. No,
it's true.
Yeah, it's always
pull the rug out from under you.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if I will accept that as how things are going so smoothly in this timeline, especially when he's actively in it. So I guess this is like our opposing thoughts, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, not really opposing, but like differing opinions about it. Different thoughts.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because if it goes in the way that, this was how it was all meant to play out all along, I think I will be a little bit disappointed unless there's some major twist in what happens to his character in the end. Because the son, as we know, is gone, and the mother wants him back. And on the other side, we're supposed to be figuring out who killed him in his original life. Those still have to pay off. So depending on how the unreliable narrator stuff goes and the timeline stuff goes, it will be either very satisfying or very unsatisfying, depending on how they play it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I stand strongly one way or another. I have my theories, but I'm both with you and against you.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think things are just going way too smoothly.
I agree.
For it to not be messed up later. Like, things have to be messed up later then.
On that, though, I think that comes back to our conversation about K-drama pacing, right? So let's pretend this is a 16 episode. I actually don't know how many episodes they've planned for this. Is it 16?
I have no idea.
Okay, let's pretend for a second that it is going to be 16. So this was episode 4, meaning that we are roughly a quarter of the way through the story. So our first, I would say, 2 episodes were our establishment, right? They were establishing the world that we were in, world building, which means we actually only got into the conflict or like the main beats of the story going into Act 2 in episode 3. Episode 3 in a 16 episode series is still early to be going into that section of the story. The pacing is going to be weird. I feel like we have to build him up to then tear him down. So I feel like the teardown will come, if this is episode 4, the teardown's going to come at like episode 8, 9, or 10. And that's the moment where, again, for him, it's just going to be all pulled out for him and everything's going to go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. I'm kind of hoping that will happen because
I hope so. Can you imagine this is actually an isekai story where like the protagonist just has god powers and he's like, well, I'm going to enjoy my billions of dollars now. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, yeah. We're only on episode 4, a quarter of the way through. But there's just so many questions that we don't have answers to yet. Like, I'm worried that like some of it's just going to be kind of brushed quickly, addressed really quickly. Like,
yes, because that is another problem in K-dramas.
Yes. Yes. They spent too long on one section. And then like, oh crap, we talked about this in the beginning, but we never addressed it. Okay, well, this is what happened. And then they move on.
All the time. Mm-hmm. It's okay, though. It's okay. There are enough moving pieces here, whereas as long as I get the major beats, like, again, I'm okay if they cast aside a character. I would love to see more of the junior employee he was training in episode 1.
I think he's gone.
I know. I know, especially because we've moved on from that time. But, like, I would love to see more of him. I found him very interesting. I hope so. At least in the final episode. Probably won't happen, and I'm okay with that. I've accepted that. But it would be nice. It's one of those things where, like, he was an interesting character, and I want to at least see where he ends up, given that he follows the advice, even if he did betray him. I want to know what happens there. So, I don't know. There's so many things to wrap up in the show. As you said, there's just so many moving parts. I don't think they'll ever get to all of them. But I at least want the major ones to be answered because I've watched K-dramas before. I think of like Memories of Alhambra. That was one of the most disappointing endings ever. Not because I didn't think the final moment was interesting. I won't spoil it, but because there were so many ideas they had in that show that they just never addressed. They never got to. So it's one of those where I really hope with this one they thought it out when we were talking in the last episode about how far do we think they thought ahead to really like create the tone for each episode. Episode 3, did they go more comedic because there's going to be a full week break? I at least hope that they thought to episode 16 and went, right, this is how we're going to wrap up his story. I hope.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I could totally see the storyline of the mom needing answers about her son. Just go like, well, this is what happened. And it's brushed.
No, I want it so badly. That's like one of the 2 storylines I care about.
I know, right? But it's episode 4. We just still kind of see his growth with the grandfather and his beginning of his story, at the beginning of him taking over.
Yep.
That's already episode 5. I feel like they're definitely going to run out of episodes to cover everything, for sure.
I think so, too. I definitely think so. But let's shift gears a little bit here because we've kind of touched upon it. There was a lot that happened this episode, but it's also a much heavier tone. Mm-hmm. This was a shift back towards what I feel like the episode 2 tone was, as opposed to 3. What did you think? It was less comedic overall, right?
Yes, for sure, yes.
Seo Min-Young, the prosecutor from episode 1 that he had all the tension with, and then in episode 3 comes back into the picture, and there's a little bit of a romantic build there.
Suggestion.
Yeah. Good way to put it. She comes back in this episode, and I feel like it's mainly played for laughs here. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I think they're using it to like use that scene to kind of, I don't know, like so far her character's been kind of like a gag. When she shows up, you know they're gonna bicker about something, and he usually wins, and she leaves embarrassed, type of thing. Like in this episode where they finally meet in the hotel room, she's like, by the way, I didn't take that scholarship. If you thought I would because you thought I was privileged, no, I'm not privileged type of thing. Like she's kind of, in a way, needing to let him know that she does not agree with what he said in the previous episode. And
Right.
she's like, unlike you, like look at you throwing a birthday party for some girl and you still think that you're better than me almost. And then he's like, ha, you thought this is my part-time job and those flowers are for my boss. And she's like, oh. And he says the line, it's almost as bad as thinking that flowers are sent from a man to a woman type of thing. Like, I love how he had to just kind of mention, like, yeah, like, you thought that it's the stereotype of, like, flowers are meant for women, when in fact it can be for men as well. I don't know, that line kind of just stood out for me. I thought that was, like, oh, that's nice they added that in. That was, like, cheeky.
He's one of those guys who can't miss the opportunity to brag a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. His cocky obnoxiousness.
He's kept that up, and I think that was actually shown a lot more this episode. Weirdly enough, we got less of him this episode than in past episodes. It was I feel like more focused on the family, which wasn't bad, but it definitely the cockiness has not gone down this episode because he's winning constantly. I felt like there were really good moments with him that kind of won me back a little bit from last episode, especially when we see him with his grandfather at the racetrack. I thought there were good moments there where he's kind of building him up. He sees him. He's uncomfortable. But then there are other moments where I'm like, again, he just knows he's winning. And I just need him to be taken down a peg. He's he's our protagonist. I like him. I am rooting for him. But at the same time, just a peg. This is kind of what we talked about before. He just can't be so superhuman.
Yeah. I thought that scene was also did really well in the unreliable narrator.
Yes.
Where they're arguing, and it definitely sounds like he invested in Hando Steel. But now that with more information at the end, you're right. It could have totally been a different topic that they're discussing, and you can interpret that way, which is totally their plan all along. Very clever.
I thought they played this out well. Like it's very much like an Ocean's 11 kind of play where they're showing you one thing and then it actually is another. But in fact, it was true. It's just the order in which we are given the information and which parts they managed to leave out. So knowing that he was told that they were being bugged gave them the advantage. He got very, very lucky in that instance. Knowing that he was being tailed because he read on the report who the driver was. Like there was a lot of information that had we been given up front would not have been surprising, but also wouldn't have been as fun. So I thought they did a good job of like revealing in the montage at the end, oh, this is how this scene actually played out.
Yeah, I think it played into his character well too, like knowing his family so well.
Yeah.
Like, he did his research like he always did, and he used it to his advantage. And at the end, just like he said, just knowing the market, the fundamental rule of investment.
Now, with that being said, there was something that you actually brought up to me before the episode started that I feel like we should address, which is, how did she know that the plant was bugged?
Bro, I don't know, man. Maybe you're just... I was thinking that too, because, like, you're probably just staring at the plant, right? You're just...
Okay,
you're
all right,
going,
I'm looking at the plant. Yep.
If you take the plant, you have to go to the hallway, to the elevator, ride the elevator, go down the hallway. That's a lot of time to stare at the plant, right?
Okay, I see what you're saying. You're saying that she was so enthralled by this plant or bored that she just had to inspect it the whole time and saw a little thing in there.
I can see myself in that situation where, like, maybe I'm just bored and I'm just staring at it type of thing, right? But, like, maybe she saw the blinking red light as she's looking at it. I don't know. Like,
they really need to stop putting blinking red lights on all these hidden devices.
Yeah, it's like a dead giveaway that it's a recording device type of thing, right? But I don't know. I totally didn't buy it either. Like, how does she know that there was a bug in there? Unless she did what we just explained. She was really bored and stared at it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, again, she didn't know who she was delivering it to. She was just originally going to, like, she was playing high and mighty, but she was just about to deliver something that she knew was bugged.
Yeah.
And she didn't even tell him up front about that or anything. Like, I don't know. Like, it was a weird way that it played out.
Bugged.
It is, but no, I realized, but like, she probably should have hesitated giving it to him, where she was originally just going to hand it fully over.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. And then when she does leave, though, after she gets embarrassed being like shown that, oh, he wasn't obviously getting flowers or giving flowers to somebody like a woman, she leaves and then comes back with an apology, essentially being like, here's a free meal on the hotel. And that's where she let him know that it was bugged. She came upstairs without anything and then immediately came back with that card. Like, there was just some inconsistencies in timing and how everything played out that made that scene a little strange. But it's one of those ones where we just have to, I think, suspend our disbelief, as you kind of said. Like, okay, we have to assume she looked at the plant and just, like, noticed it.
But, like, it was a voucher for a free meal for Mr. O. Why would he open it?
You know, he's high up. She had to present it to him as an apology. You know, he was the one. Mr. O had the hotel room.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I thought, like, she would hand it to him because, yeah, he's the junior, and then junior gives it to the senior. I can buy that. He opened it. Okay, maybe the senior just needs him to open it too. Okay, sure. I don't think I would have taken it out, flipped it to the back, like knowingly, and to see the message.
Yeah, maybe it was one of those ones where, like, he took it out and he was handing it over to him, and that's when he noticed on the back.
No
but
way,
we see it. No, we actually see it. You're right.
Yeah, and, like, I don't know, if we're in that situation, we would, like, open it up, look at it. Cool. Slip it back in.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't think I've ever flipped a card around that already had a message on it that I figured, I don't think so.
I would have written it on the envelope.
You know what, though? This is one of those things where from now on, I'm always going to flip my cards over, just in case.
Just in case, yeah.
Just in case. This is one of those zombie survival tips nobody talks about. What if one of the zombies is slipping you a note to warn you? You know, you need to be careful about these things. So I feel like it's a very important conversation to have, and I'm glad that we had it.
Yeah, same.
Look, this is how a lot of our conversations go for anybody who doesn't know us very well. All right, with that being said, there's only one thing that I want to talk about before we move on from our impressions over to our good and bad categories, and that is the presentation of this episode overall. So there was a little bit more VFX work here, I feel like, than in some of the previous episodes, or at least that were more noticeable. Would you say that as well?
Yes. Yes, for sure. Like in the very first episode, you know, that scene where he is in his new body, he's looking around in the car, he's like looking at the windows and everything. You really enjoyed that scene, right?
I did. I thought it was so well done.
Did you enjoy the car scene with the chairman and Jin Do-Joon as he picked him up from school?
What are you getting at here?
I'm just asking.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There was, it was well done.
Yeah. I
don't know. I feel like I'm not noticing something here.
Well, I don't know. You just didn't like think that it was a little too green, especially on his hair, the chairman's white, grayish hair.
That was one of the moments that had green. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't even pick up on it in that scene.
So the color of this episode, I actually wanted to like mention a little bit too.
Okay.
They're very stylistic this time, where it was so green, so
it was
dark
across the episode, and I feel like that's maybe why I didn't notice it, because a lot of the end episode had a hue to it that was just like very blue green. Yeah,
it was just so
muddy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was just so contrasted, dark green type of thing. So I don't know. Maybe my eyes were a little like tainted from all the green, but
maybe.
Like for those scenes with the driving in the car or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you think they used the camera? Like, how do you think it was placed and everything? Because they were very close-up shots, and you know they are huge cameras as well. So it's really hard to fit in a camera in a car as they're driving, and
Yeah.
it being so close up. Like even like if it was like a prime lens, right?
Yep.
It'd be way too close up.
Way too close.
And
Yeah.
even for a zoom, I feel like in that space, you would definitely see like maybe Jin Do-Joon's shoulder if it's like a chairman type of thing. Like I don't know, I felt like I couldn't
Stop thinking about how it was done.
yeah, like how it was done, and like I think that scene was green screened.
Now that you've talked about it, I'm almost certain. I just honestly didn't notice it in the moment. And maybe that's because, again, I was taking notes or because of the hue or whatever it is. I would need to watch it again, but I'm almost certain you're right because of a few things that you mentioned. So, for one, how did they get the camera in there without any reflections catching it? Did they take the time to comp out the camera? For anybody who wasn't part of our last episode, we kind of talked about what comping is. That's taking something out of a scene or putting something into a scene in post-production using VFX. When I think about how they would have achieved it, most likely what I would do is I would put them in what looks like a car that does not have a front, so you can move the camera wherever you want.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't put glass in the windows. That's probably the simplest way. That way you don't have to deal with reflections at all. So having a green screen means that, one, you don't have to keep circling around the same spot, no dealing with continuity, no fitting a camera in a vehicle, none of these things. And obviously there are a lot of shows that use in-car scenes.
Yeah.
But this one was fairly unique in how close they were getting to the characters while still having a wide angle and that sort of stuff. So, for example, there were shots of Jin Do-Joon and the chairman where you would get a fairly wide shot of them. And to be able to get that wide shot without it being completely distorted like it's a fisheye, you would almost have to take off the side of the car. And the simplest solution for that would be to take off the side of the car. So you would have like a static set and you would have one of the actors sit in or both of them in basically like just a back seat with one side of the car, I would think, right?
Mm-hmm. But there are some shots where you do see his reflection. I was staring at the window and you see his mouth moving at the same time as he's talking.
Okay, my theory's out the window. So so there's a couple. Okay, you would know this better than me, but if I was trying to solve that, they either took his face, flipped it, and comped it in.
Yeah.
Or they actually did have his reflection, and how would they do that?
I totally think that it is possible that they took his there was no windows and they comped his reflection into the window.
Sure.
Because I'm thinking about some shots that we did at work where it was the same thing, like it was a car scene but they weren't really driving.
Right.
Yeah, but then that just makes it harder to kind of that's the only logical way I could think about it, but like the reflection looked like it matched because when he was talking, the reflection was also like moving a little bit.
Completely matching.
Yeah, but then when they cut to a similar angle, you can see that his hair, there's a green tint to it, but you can see in the background of the car, like the back windshield, that there's like lights like through the trees and the branches. You can see the lights like flickering like from the window. So like
is it hitting him?
No, it's just green on his.
So it's definitely okay. So what I'm getting is it's most likely there's actual glass in the window so that they get a reflection, but it's green screen beyond.
Yeah, I think it's like that. Yeah.
That's still so much work. That is so much work for what is a very little payoff.
I think they just like color corrected the reflection, so like obviously it wouldn't be so green. Maybe.
Green.
Yeah. But, yeah, half of his head was still kind of green, and I don't know. Maybe their hair was just really slicked down, but there was absolutely no hairs standing up or stray hairs or anything. I was fully like staring at it. I'm like, I pretty sure it's a green screen comp because
Yeah.
it was super close up for like the tension shots,
Mm-hmm.
and then the kind of the green tint in his hair that wasn't matching the lighting, supposedly coming back from the back windshield, and it's just I think maybe the comp. It's really hard to comp cleanly against hair, anyways.
For sure, they're so fine. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to mask it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. There was another scene that I was thinking of that. So when they're inside the building, right at the beginning of the episode, the end of last episode,
Yes.
that to me screamed VFX. And we talked a little bit about like comping the window and stuff.
Yeah.
The more I thought about it, the more I realized I think they probably VFX'd a lot of that.
Yeah.
And there was another scene in this episode that it's just not coming to me where I noticed that they were on green screen and I can't think of what it was. It wasn't like an obvious one like a car. It was like some random scene. I can't remember if it was at the racetrack or what it was, where it seemed like they were on VFX, like some sort of green screen or plate. And I was like, this is a weird shot. And it just, I couldn't figure out why they needed to do it. But there was another one that it's just not coming to me right now.
I was wondering if the scene before, like when the sister came into the eldest brother's office, I was wondering if that window space, that side, was a green screen because the space
interesting.
had a slight green tint to it that didn't. I think didn't really seem to match the green hue. So I was wondering.
Do you know what usually does it for me in those instances? Because you can get rid of the green hue sometimes, but oftentimes the highlight isn't right. Like it should be really, really high, and it feels like they've pulled the highlights down to actually match the rest of the scene. And it's like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here. But I don't know if that. I honestly can't remember which one it was, but this episode definitely stood out to me as having more VFX shots that were noticeable, and whether that was time constraints, whether that means that there were more shots that had to be done, whatever it was, I definitely felt like it was just more times that I was getting bumped out of a scene than normal.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like whenever they're standing near windows, I was questioning a little bit.
You're looking at all the reflections being like, yeah, no, for sure. For sure. It's one of those things where, again, I just want to get on set once. I just want to see, I want to see the production. I need to know. I want the behind the scenes. This is one of those things that I kind of miss. So Netflix is awesome. Streaming services, love it. Love the convenience. Obviously, I wish for the 4K quality with like uncompressed video. That would be great. The thing I miss most about DVDs, this is my little rant for the episode. The thing I miss most about DVDs is the behind the scenes features, because that was one of those things before I got involved in film that taught me about the industry. I remember watching behind the scenes of TV shows back in the day and just like looking at the setups being like, oh my goodness, there was one person 3 feet away, like with a mic in that emotional scene. Like there was a boom pole right there the entire time. And I would have never known. What most people don't realize is you can have these scenes, these really dramatic scenes, and there's like 14 people just on the other side of that with the camera right in their face. It's never as glamorous as you think it is. And on productions like these, this feels like a big budget production. There were a couple shots outside in the garden where I'm almost certain they're using anamorphic lenses. And anamorphic lenses are extremely expensive, very, very expensive to work with. But the way that the shift in focus happened from the character in the back to the front, and the shape of the background when it was out of focus with the bokeh was like completely convincing me that it was anamorphic. But there's no way they shot this entire thing on anamorphic lenses. There's such a variance in quality, but it would explain why certain scenes look better than others, or at least look more consistent than others in terms of quality for some of that stuff. So I want to get on set just for one day. I just want to ask a few questions. That's all I want.
Yeah, I think totally. Like, they could totally use both spherical and anamorphic lenses for the show.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think that is super normal. So I think your suspicion is correct that they're probably using some anamorphic lenses for some shots.
I just want confirmation, Qomi. I just want like a little bit of confirmation.
I don't think you'll get confirmation for that, but usually there are behind the scenes like on YouTube. It's not really informative. It's mainly like the actors like being cutesy on set. But we can see like what is on set behind them sometimes. Maybe, right? Maybe we'll have some answers after the
Totally.
the show wraps up.
One of the things that I respect most about the Korean industry is, one, how far their quality has come in such a short amount of time. I don't think I've ever seen film go from, is this shot on a camcorder, to matching and surpassing the quality of Western cinema in such a short amount of time. But the other thing is, they get away with very simple setups for very complicated shots. I've seen, I'm thinking of, what's the one I'm thinking of right now? It's another Netflix Studio Dragon production. It came after, it's about the two brothers who, one of them has...
It's Okay Not to Be Okay?
Yeah, thank you. It's Okay to Not to Be Okay. So the behind the scenes of that one, it was exactly what you're describing. It was like bloopers, essentially. But then they would like swing the camera around and you get to see the setup. I'm like, they're using one bounce and a camera for this entire scene. It's crazy what they got away with. So yeah, I love that kind of stuff. That's actually a really good idea.
Yes, maybe we can do an episode of like questions answered from on set.
That's actually such a good idea. Yeah, if you guys ever have questions about how certain shots are done, we may not have the answer, but one of our favorite things to do is basically break stuff down, figure out how they did it, and come up with solutions for that sort of stuff, just speaking from our own experience and the experience of people we work with. So yeah, if you guys have questions about any of the shows that you've watched or anything like that, do let us know.
Yeah.
With that being said, it's time to move on from impressions to good or bad. Now,
Oh boy.
for those who don't know, this is the section of our podcast where we go through a few different things, and Qomi just has to tell me whether something is good or bad from this episode. Qomi, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, in 3, 2, 1. Jin Do-Joon's fashion sense.
D- good.
Okay, all right. His driver's spying abilities.
Bad.
Plain donuts.
Good.
Okay, and 3-1's taste in umbrellas.
Bad.
Yeah, really bad, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
They have
that's it. That's
holes.
it for good bad. It was like your typical like 1920s umbrella for the beach for people who don't know what umbrella is supposed to do.
Yep. I mean, they don't want to tan, right? They use umbrellas, but her umbrella is just basically lace with holes.
It was lace.
Lots and lots of holes.
Yep. All right, that's all I have for good or bad this week, but glad we kept it short. Now we will quickly move on to our pet peeves. Did you have any pet peeves for this episode?
I think we kind of really brushed upon it already. It was mainly the bug in the plant.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I don't recall any other pet peeves.
It's okay. I've got one that you and I both share.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so early in the episode, right, of course, Jin Do-Joon came into a lot of money in the last episode, and he invested that into power shares. And they say that they are investing $500 million into Hando Steel.
Yeah.
The problem is, are they talking Korean currency or American currency? It would stand to reason that it would be American currency. If we really think about it, that's such a tiny amount of money if it was 500 million won. But it gets very confusing because they flip between the two currencies constantly.
Yes.
Constantly. And I feel like there were a few examples that you actually brought up. Again, before we did the episode, we just chat a little bit quickly about it. We don't give impressions or anything like that. We want that to be fresh on the episode. But we do talk about a few things that we might want to chat about. And you were like, yeah, there were a few instances where they went back and forth on this.
Yeah, like when they're talking about the debt that Hando Steel went in, it was like 4
Yes.
trillion, and then it had a little bracket and said, what was it, 4 billion?
Yep.
Yeah, 4 billion USD type of thing. But then
Yes.
after that, they just kept saying 500 million, 600 million, 700 million type of thing. And yeah, although maybe we're supposed to pick up on that like naturally, but as we were trying to like figure out the facts of the show, we're like, wait, was it mil or bill? Was it won
Totally.
or USD?
It's one of those frustrating things where it's very simple. If you give the example once that you are going to put it in brackets, you should probably stick to that. Not only that, but
Yeah.
you used won the first time, and then the next time you used USD. And so it's the flipping between the two that makes it very confusing. And it's one of those things that in the grand scheme may not matter that much, but to the viewer, it can just make it a little bit extra confusing. So they keep referring to his investment being 24 million. So then we just think, okay, it's 24 million USD. We get it. That's what it is. And they're
Yes.
fairly consistent with that. The problem is then they go and change it when they're talking about other things, when they're talking about large investments, the economy, that sort of stuff. And then they're talking about in Korean currency. Just all we ask, if you're ever writing a script, if you're ever doing translation, just consistency. That's it. That's it.
Maybe no one else is irked from it. It's just us. Maybe we're just dumb. Maybe someone's gonna be like, duh, like you should have known this.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Where were we? Oh, that's right. We're wrapping up the episode.
Yeah.
So that was episode 4 of Reborn Rich. Qomi, we have to review it quickly before we say goodbye. If you had to rate this out of 5, what would you give episode 4?
A 4?
Okay, and I would give it a 3.5, which means we both moved up from the last episode.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a different style of episode. I think I just like the tone of this better than episode 3, but I think there's room to improve by kind of improving the pacing. There were some parts that lingered. There were some odd things, but I still think the core of this episode answered a lot of questions and really ratcheted up the tension. Plus that twist at the end. Come on.
Now that you say all that, can I change it to 3.5?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I don't know.
So why did you change it back down?
You said it answered a lot of questions, and I feel like it's like a lot of questions that was asked in the episode, or maybe a little bit
True.
from like the past episode, but it didn't
Yeah,
answer
true.
questions for me that were like that built to the overall like questions that I want to know about, which I know is supposed to be slowly building over time, but like I felt like nothing has really built over time yet. Like this is still just like
Yeah, it's the episode 3 and 4 arc. That's actually a really good point because
still
even
just
like the big
context.
twist that happened only matters because of the twist from the last episode and not episode 1 and 2. It has right now the money is still a MacGuffin right now. It has no. We shouldn't care about the money because it's all about the characters and they haven't given us any of that. It's all business.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. This episode still just felt like it's just more context, giving us more
Sure.
like information
It's
to know
exposition.
for later. Yeah, it kind of just
Yeah.
felt like a sort of like what a filler episode would be like in the K drama. I guess I still
Yeah.
enjoyed it because it did give us a lot of information. It answered. It had like core things that like you could see like in sections of the episode, and. Yeah, I overall enjoyed watching it because you can see more of the other characters and not just Jin Do-Joon, even though it's Song Joong-ki and everyone wants to see more of him.
Of course.
Yeah, but we got to see a little bit more about the other characters because I was wondering, like, before Jin Do-Joon was in the picture in the old life, did the chairman despise his sons as much as we see right now? Did he really think they were this incompetent type of thing? It had me
Yeah.
wondering, like, did he always hate his sons?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's actually a really good question. That's not one that I really had thought about until right now. I'm going to have to think on that.
Good. Just think about it before you go to sleep.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not 2:26 in the morning already. Wait, no, sorry, what? With that being said, we will wrap it up here. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching this episode. With that being said, it would really help us out if you would like, comment, and subscribe. This is only our 3rd episode, so we are still a growing channel, and we will be doing many more reactions, recaps, and reviews of K-dramas, and we would love to do more content in the future. Let us know what you thought of the episode, and if you have any questions for us, definitely drop us a comment.
Yeah, we would love to have some conversation with you guys and just learn more in general. But CB, what did you miss? Hit
subscribe.
Come on, you know the other one.
Thumbs up.
One last chance.
Hit. You're gonna have to give it to me.
Oh man, I don't want to say it.
I'm sorry, that's your role here.
Nope, I'm not saying it. We're ending it here.
What? I don't know what you want me to say.
Wait.
Here, signal it to me.
The notification,
I forgot. We haven't said that on any of the episodes.
No, we said it last episode. You're like, I can't
Did
believe you
we?
said that. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Hit that notification bell.
Good job.
That's the one. See, we fumbled it at the end line, but we're having fun out here. We're still new to this.
Or I think we're just a little delusional because it's 2:27.
Shh, we're not supposed to let them know that. Absolutely not.
Anyways, have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.